La emisión está comenzando. Todos los asistentes están en modo de solo escucha.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us to this webinar where we are going to talk again about tech trends and challenges for ESCOs and utilities and for all of us actually in the energy industry. We're going to talk about gamifying energy thanks to the collaboration of experts from LiMETOOLS in this area. This is our agenda for the session. I'm going to do a very brief welcome and talk 2-3 things that you need to know about DEXMA. If you don't know us yet, probably yes. So it will be very fast. Then my colleague Laura, good morning Laura.
Hello Maria.
Will help us understand a little bit more market challenges for the energy companies right now. Laura works in the R&D team here at DEXMA, and what they do is to identify this kind of challenges and which new technologies we can apply to develop new products and new solutions in order to help you overcome the challenges. And finally, we will have, as I was mentioning, Neil and John from LiMETOOLS. They will talk us about gamification. I know for many of you this is a new concept. It's been applied in other industries like banking and etc. So please be very, very aware of this part of the presentation because it's gonna give you many new concepts and ideas. From us, from DEXMA, we will let you know what we do. We are an energy management software company. We have been working for more than 10 years now, and we produce this tool called Excel Energy Manager and many other apps that Laura, for example, will mention later, a couple of them more. It's a SaaS-based EMS that help you reducing costs and consumption in your buildings, actually in any kind of buildings. We are very proud of being recognized by Memory, Verdantics, Navigant, and other industry leaders and researchers in the field, and also because we are very well rated in Capterra. This B2B is one of the most important listings for B2B software, and you can read their opinions from our real customers, both ESCOs, utilities, and customers, etc. This is because we have a global footprint. We are working actually in more than 40 countries with different partners, like in UK, you can see the map, Italy, we're almost everywhere. In very advanced markets like UK and France with demand response solutions, very top of the edge technologies, and also in markets more traditional like Spain, for example. So our solutions can be used in any market and with any landscape that you have. Actually, this is so true that we have thousands of buildings. I think that more than 40,000 now monitorized in the platform. And of course, the activity of those is so, I mean, the variety is so huge that you can see here some examples, but they are really, really few of them. We work with utilities like Gas Natural, Total. We work with museums, retail chains like the education main universities here, for example, in Catalonia are working with our solution, and of course hotel chains. I mean, the list is so huge that I don't want to stand here so much. And thanks to this, and thanks to the analysis that we can provide to our customers and to all of these companies, we detect every year challenges for those of you working in the energy industry. Many of them are for ESCOs and utilities, but also if you work in an end customer, in a telco company, or a retailer or shopping mall or whatever, it's a challenge also for you. Normally you have an ESCO or a utility that could help or not with you with the challenges, and for this part, my friend Laura and colleague is here to help us understand a little bit more the challenges.
So thank you, Maria, for this brief introduction of what we do in Dexma. Like you said, we develop software solutions for customers like energy services companies and utilities that want to save energy every day. So our roadmap should be fully aligned within these needs. So first, let me explain you how we accomplish these challenges in our research and development department. So this is the global overview, how we manage a project that starts within an idea. Of course, we take into account your needs, the needs of the end customers that are going to use this new solution, the utilities, the ESCOs, and of course, we have to carry out some technology watch, be updated within the regulation and policies, and of course, we need to know what our competitors are doing. So once we have this idea clear, we have to discover and scope a project if it fits for these needs. So afterwards, we can build a business case in order to be developed here in Dexma within our product and development team, and then to validate, test it, so we can launch it to the market after 1.5 years, or it could last also till 3 years. So feedback project is the one that we are going to explain afterwards more in detail about gamification. Is an example that has started like I explained. So now let's focus on some of these ideas or challenges that we think that now are important for you. Of course, the list is huge, but today we wanted to focus on these three. So the first one is about improving customer experience. This is a concept that we hear often nowadays. What is it about? It's about mainly the satisfaction, a good quality of service, and at the end, it's a matter of perception. So this could be achieved by means of a bot on several fields, like Maria was saying, in banking, but also applied for the energy field. Mm-hmm. Let's see afterwards how it can be implemented. The second challenge that we see here, it's one that it's a common pain for our partners, also for the end customers, for the utilities, for the ESCOs, is to save energy and money. So here is that people don't know where to start, where the potential energy savings are, and also utilities are suffering of a high churn of their customers, and they are required to have a differentiation among these utilities. Okay. And the third challenge is what we are here today to talk about, is about behavioral change. So it's clear that changes on the way that building users behaves might represent important savings on the energy bill. Of course, it's huge, the capabilities that as a person could have just behaving properly to save a lot of energy in a whole building. But let's see more in details within LiMETOOLS, and also explain you briefly what we are going to do within this project feedback. Okay. So let's go a little bit more in detail about this first challenge. So
okay, the bot,
yes. We have here like a mock-up of a first prototype that we have created here in Dexma. It's a bot powered by, of course, artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms. Okay. So let's understand the needs. Sometimes it's difficult to gather information or specific information from my portfolio of buildings. So, for example, if I'm a facility manager and I want to know a specific consumption of one appliance, it's difficult to gather that information, because a chatbot might help me to answer this question quite fast.
Yes, imagine that you are in the field, in a different building, and you receive some kind of alert or a question for the client from another building. I mean, that's what you kind of mean, that sometimes you are not in front of the computer all the time checking data.
Of course. So besides these notifications, the chatbot will be always available. It might reduce human mistakes It will be able to learn itself, so it clearly satisfies the customer needs. So it will allow you to access to this relevant information, saving time and, of course, saving cost.
I think it's really interesting because when we are hearing a lot now about artificial intelligence. It's like a fashionable term to use. And this, guys, is an example of how this get real.
Yes, so it's a challenge, of course. It's applied to many sectors, but it could be done also in the energy field.
Okay, great.
So let's move quickly to the second challenge. So so far, in order to know how a building behaves and the energy consumption of an appliance, we need to go to the traditional way, which is installing individual submetering. This is an intrusive method that requires investment, hardware investment. So in DEXMA, we think that we have came out within a solution that is considering a different approach. It's called non-intrusive load monitoring, and by means of using the general consumption of the smart meter, we might be able to use machine learning algorithms to disaggregate this consumption per appliance. So what are the benefits of this? This can reduce the cost of your projects. You don't need to go and to carry out on-site audits, to use complicated Excel files to know in detail the behavior of your building. But this could be done totally on a virtual way, a frictionless way. So you also take advantage of the investment in smart meters. So this technology that I was explaining about, called load disaggregation or non-intrusive load monitoring, is what we used in our product called Energy Grader that we launched last year. So based on these algorithms, if we add the metadata, for example, weather data, and taking into account that in DEXMA we have a huge database composed of more than 40,000 buildings that we have collected for the past 10 years, we can make running this machine that we can watch here on this slide in order to provide to the user to recommendations. So you can know where you can save energy based on your patterns of energy use. So this is an important challenge, save energy and money. And in DEXMA, we think that this is a good way to achieve it.
Okay. Yeah, it's a great way to access clients that normally won't think at all in energy efficiency because, as you said, it's expensive. We need to install hardware, blah blah blah. Typical stoppers that you have here over and over. So I think this opens a new potential of clients for energy efficiency companies. That, yeah, it's really interesting.
Okay. So last but not least, let's talk about behavioral change. I don't want to spoiler what Neil and Paul will explain afterwards. So just to go quickly, we are carrying out a project, a European project called Feedback, together with LiMETOOLS experts in gamification and 6 other partners. And here we are planning to develop and integrate energy efficiency thanks to behavioral change. So like I was saying, we can achieve almost 15% of energy savings if we combine awareness, education, and consumer behavioral change on a building. How can we achieve this? So by means of interaction, personalized messages, games, quizzes, peers challenges, without investment. So the benefits are huge. But like I say, I don't want to spoiler. So this is the 3 challenges that we identify here in DEXMA. And now I want to...
Yeah, sure. We are going to move because the real experts are here today with us. Just give me everyone 1 second to move from this part of the presentation to the second one. We are here. And we're going to start this one. Okay. And I'm going to say hi to Neil and John. Hello, guys.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everyone.
We are going to pass the lead to John and Neil that are going to explain us a little bit more about the gamification as a concept and how they have been applying from LiMETOOLS this kind of technology to many different industries, and now how we will use it in energy. Neil and John, let me know when you want me to pass the slide. I'm going to mute our microphone now, and it's all yours.
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity. Claire, if you could move to the first two slides. We're going to try and just explain our experiences with our clients concerning energy and the relationship of immersing occupiers of buildings through gamification to change their habits. And that's principally what we're trying to do. Next slide, please. So why gamification? Well, most of our clients, when we start, go, well, if we've got the technical software, people like Dexma are producing great stuff, we can save energy, so why should we bother playing any games? What's the relationship? And the answer usually is that it's people are a problem. People do not behave like they normally should do, and so no amount of technical solution will necessarily mean that the occupiers of buildings will help you. And if they don't help you, then clearly it's an upward hill struggle. It's harder. So to immerse people, to give them a sense of ownership, that they are almost like a team sport working together to help the energy use of the building, requires them to want to be motivated and immersed in the challenge that the company has set. And therefore, if they are selecting their own habit changes, their own localized decisions on how they can help, it requires them to remind them continually that those are the sort of prejudice, habit ideas that they made and promised to themselves. Gaming is a really good way in which you can immerse them and then help them, support them regularly as they continue to change their habits. And one of the reasons why is because immersing them in storytelling, and that's where we move on. Thank you. Next slide. Clearly, many people teach occupiers of buildings through traditional teaching methods, PowerPoints, workshops. One of the things that we have discovered, and many other people in our type of work, is that if you push information to people, they may memorize it for a number of days or weeks, but it doesn't stay with them, and the habits can go back to old poor habits. So the key to making people engage is to involve them, to become part of the process, not something you tell people to do. And this is a key to why we use the techniques we use. It's involvement through immersion and reward. Thank you. Next slide.
So to elaborate on that, we've found that occupiers in buildings tend to develop poor habits, sometimes without realizing that it's happening at all in their behaviour towards energy management. And this can dramatically lower the effectiveness of consultants' advice and software solutions, no matter how good they are. And we found that people do have the habit of overriding what's best for them. So in order to help people to localise the best practice and then retain their behaviour change pledges, it requires awareness, analysis, action and measurement. And the gaming techniques do these four things in an immersive and highly memorable way.
Next slide, please. We're going to show you a short video which gives you some examples of the techniques we use when working with occupiers in buildings. And I should say at this stage, normally the amount of work time it takes to create this effect and to bring about behavior change can be as little as 20 minutes, a game lasting for 15 to 20 minutes. Or in some cases, people will require it every week on a Friday afternoon for just 10 minutes. So the techniques and the timing it takes can vary. But the techniques that we principally use are energy apps, which people can use on their mobiles at any point in time. They tend to be reminders and nudges, if you like, nudging people to remind them that they would turn the lights off when they leave the room. Those types of energy apps are very specific to certain types of outcome. Then we use documentary information, and clearly when you want to explain the science of why we're bothering, why do we need to worry about energy, clearly one of the best formats is to use broadcast television, Discovery Channel information video. This is because you can put a lot of information in a memorable way in a very short space of time, 1 minute videos. It's much, much more effective than actually presenting 6 slides of PowerPoint text. While people are going through the tools, quite often the client would ask us to say, can you put in some opinion gathering so that we can receive data back about what the staff or the occupiers of the building are actually thinking about this particular subject. So we can build in opinion gathering into the tool. Clearly, interaction with the screen is partly a reward, partly fun, but it's also an important way in which we get the immersion, the engagement with the user. Again, if they're just watching things, they can tend to drift off. If we're asking them to react to things, answer questions, play quiz games, then of course it becomes much more fun. It also becomes much more secure that we know they're engaged because we can see that they're taking part. We use a lot of fictional narrative, sometimes in comic strip story time, and other times in fictional novellas, using actual broadcast drama, which we create, and where we use a concept called cognitive social theory, where people, having seen other people make terrible mistakes and seeing the outcomes of those mistakes or those poor habits, they begin to associate with those people and understand that's like I would be, and that renders them more amenable or aware of their possibilities of changing. So we're now going to show you a video that gives you some demonstration of these types of aspects.
Our scientists and governments concentrate on the measurement and management of the 6 greenhouse gases that every individual and business on the planet contributes to. We add to the buildup of CO2 in Earth's atmosphere every time we travel, consume electricity or gas in our offices. We do so daily, so the chances to save energy and reduce carbon emissions are many. But the business community can be slow to make the simple changes of behaviour needed. Whilst we are leading the world in developing new technology that can save energy, we also need to look at what savings can be made by a simple change of habit. Here's a typical office, accommodating around 25 people. Take a look around and see how much they could save doing the simplest things every day. And remember, there are some commercial benefits from your actions at work.
We are going to show you a short silent movie. It features 2 brothers Mr. Carbon and Mr. Careless, who are twins. Watch carefully to see how they save or waste energy in just one day of their busy lives. When you're ready to play, just click.
The only thing that matters in this last month of trading, that nothing comes along to lower the profits. Got it?
Well, as I'm in nominal charge of the finances of this company, let me inform you, Serena, that our buildings report, which you called unnecessary meddling at the time, is showing that our stock wastes on average 70% of the energy it draws down. And in 57 buildings, they have found indications of structural failure and asbestos in the roofing cavities. We have to spend money now.
Cash is right, you know, Al.
I know. It's just that Serena's rapid growth solution is also right.
Yeah, until you introduce annoying things like angry employees and crap buildings. Why is she so obsessed with this year's end profit?
$1.5 million? You can't be serious. Yeah, well, I'll ring Henry, but Serena, no, you gotta calm him down and keep a lid on this. You understand? Henry, slight hitch to the plan.
There's no point in fighting Cash. He's right.
Oh, there is every point. There's stuff going on here that's none of your business, so don't meddle. I do understand all this low carbon stuff, but it's just not the right time for me.
But when is the right time? When it's not happening under your watch?
Listen.
Thank you. So that gives you one or two examples of the techniques we use, and the games that are currently in development for the market are a group of games called Saving Energy, which are short games, 20 minutes long, different techniques of energy, dealing with things like air conditioning, lighting energy, etc.
We also have a suite of 3 tools, each of which lasts in approximately 30 minutes, that support building facility managers to become more like problem solvers rather than just switch operators.
The Why Bother tool is a very popular tool at the moment, because a lot of people are trying to make sure all their staff understand why the company is concerned. And clearly it's not just only about saving money. Sometimes it's also has ethical and moral arguments for trying to work together to save energy. And therefore reaching people like cleaners, security, reception people are just as important as it is to the main managers in the offices. So an idea for a 15-minute playing on mobiles, very simple, why are we bothering? And then the human factor is a 6-month company behavior change campaign tool, which we're developing with DEXMA and on the feedback project. And this is for large multinationals who are developing, want to reach all their staff over a long period of time to fundamentally change the way in which they manage energy internally. Next slide, please. What we're finding is that businesses are feeding back to us that initially the first major return on the investment of using the tool is that when they go to their clients and they promise energy saving, percentage of energy savings in their work, this can help de-risk the human factor that sometimes gets in the way of the technical solution. The second thing, perhaps, if we move on, is it does make their services look more distinctive. This is an added value to the service and helps them differentiate a little bit more in their market.
Additionally, it creates new revenue streams that can run quite comfortably alongside existing client fees. Next, thank you.
It offers the client a built-in team working approach. So we've been surprised that some companies actually find the competitive nature of a department playing against another department, the idea of working together as a team in itself is a valuable thing to bring into their organizational methodology. And obviously, clearly, it brings a reputational value in terms of publicly stating further efforts to help train people related to sustainability within the public domain. Thank you. We've enjoyed presenting this to you. I hope if there are any questions, you can either type them in or ask them now. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Of course, we have enjoyed. We have seen in the video and with the scheme some examples of gamification tools. Now it's time for everyone that is connected. If you want to learn more, if you have any questions, if you have anything that we can try to help you understand a little bit more about this trend and this technology, we will be happy to help your questions. You can send them with the question tool from the GoToWebinar, the tool that we use for this webinar. We have some already. I'm gonna read some of them and in the meantime you can still send us some of your ideas or questions. So for example, we have one question saying, in your experience in the past applying these technologies, which percentage of people in a building or in a project in general gets involved with the gamification platform? I think that people is asking, okay, when you set up this kind of tool and you have a community of 100 people, what's the percentage of people that joins? I don't know if you, Neil and John, have any experience from the past, even if it's not related with energy companies or energy projects.
Yes, we can. We deal with behavior change in energy security and also in cyber security, both of which are very critical related to behavior change. In both areas, if you took 100 people, what we find is that about 40 of those 100 would be engaged and immersed and almost become ambassadors for the idea afterwards. Okay. Then you have about 20% who just go through the tool because they're told to do it. They find it more rewarding than if they were doing a straightforward PowerPoint workshop. They're pleased that it doesn't take up more time than it needs to. And in some tools we do, the clients ask us to capture the data In other words, they must get a certain score in the quiz. Otherwise, they must be made to do it again, which we have an automated software that requires them to go around if they get past the low score. And those 20%, I suppose, will go through it and try and get a reasonable score so they don't have to do it again. And then you have a final 20%, I suppose, sorry, 40% out of those. You get those that are just really not interested, and they will go through to the process because in some cases they're told to do it. It's part of their work requirement from their manager. And I suppose 10% of those are what you might call disruptors. Those are people who really don't want to do this and really do not understand it. However, because of the nature of it's a rich media experience, even the 10% that don't really want to do it, by the end of it do complete, and they do have score. We're principally concerned with the 40 and the further 20, because the 60% of a workforce changing a habit and staying, that habit changing, sticking and being retained is a considerable impact in terms of return on investment.
Okay, great. And from the feedback project, I think that we have already some numbers from people that have registered from the buildings, right, Laura? In the pilot sites, some of the people already joined for the project or not yet?
We are still in the process of engage these users.
Okay.
But there's going to be like 3 different pilots. We will have different types of buildings here in Barcelona, of commercial buildings, corporate buildings in El Prat. And then we will have a university in Porto, which is called INESTEC, and their own building is going to be a pilot also, so that the users are completely different.
Okay.
And then we have a neighborhood in Germany, so residential also will be involved. So this is not just a solution for commercial buildings, but could be also applied on residential.
Okay. Great, that's really interesting because we have a question that actually says if there is any kind of tool to apply on saving energy, gaming program at home, not buildings, and we are aiming to bring the tools resulting from this project also to households. When the pilot starts, we will be sharing some of the results and engagement and of course from households.
Yeah, of course the approach is not the same. Maybe you guys, John and Nian, can explain better. But at the end is the goal is to save energy. But of course the approach is not the same on a house that on a company or a corporate building. Yes, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, we have been asked by several clients to not only produce a tool for the workplace, but also something smaller that the people at work can take home and play with their children and their family. So we produced a very short 10-minute fun game for which we give away free to those clients' workers to take home to play with their families, so that the influence extends back into the family as well. And the company obviously is buying that license as a gift for their staff to change the way things happen at home. And that seems to be very popular as a sort of reward for doing the project in the first place at work.
Okay, great, thanks. We have another question. It's not about gamification, it's about the submetering disaggregation that Laura mentioned as one of the big challenges coming to our industry. It sounds interesting, says the person who asked, Jose. Have you been able to establish how accurate it is? Laura, do you have an answer for this?
Yes, so in our case, we already know more or less how accurate our technology is because, like I mentioned, we have a huge database composed of 50,000 buildings with submetering, which allows us to know and compare if our algorithms work properly compared to the submeter data via hardware. And we can say that it's accurate, it's almost 95%. So without the need of invest in hardware, and saving a lot of time and money, then we might be able to offer almost the same accuracy. So this is a huge market and a huge opportunity for us. So that's why we identify it as a challenge that we can solve here in DEXMA.
Okay, great, 95%.
Yes.
So far, we will get better and better.
Yes.
We have another question for you guys. When did you start with gamification tools? I think the question is a little bit open, but I think it refers to since when you have been working with gamification. When did this started or something like that?
Okay. It began, we had a contract for a year in Indonesia to work with the government and large multinationals to look at energy saving, and the perception of the workforce in Indonesia is very different, as you may be aware, that they can see the impact of energy security and the problems that are being created by the climate change, etc. They were very willing to want to try and experiment with ways in which the biggest challenge was to keep the habit change going for longer than 6 months, because obviously people tend to want to start and then they learn, they go to a workshop, they go home promising themselves that they will save energy, and then within months they've forgotten, principally. So we had a very good market to work in, and we started to play those games. This was about 6 years ago. We started developing that, and then we applied it to cybersecurity behaviour, because that was a very quick market to work in, and we learned a lot from the sort of technique and the style and the software development that we needed to create that through very large clients like the World Bank and people like that, who were basically trying to teach very complicated stuff to very specialist audiences. And that's really when we were pushed hard to understand where gaming worked and where gaming didn't work in some cases. And so we've had about 5 years now of exploring the right technique at the right place for the right type of audience and player.
Okay.
And we're now doing much more in terms of, with the feedback project, on relating the gaming to sensor-driven data.
Okay, great, thank you. And our last question will be if Jose is asking if we have an office in London. We at DEXMA work in the UK, but we don't have a physical office in London. And I don't know, you guys, if you want to share with Jose where are you located, in case he wants to drop or organize a visit with LiMETOOLS.
Yeah, we have part of our business is in London, part of our business is in a place called Bournemouth on the south coast, which has got a nice beach. All my young staff love working in Bournemouth, as you can imagine. We're more than happy to come and visit people in London, or they can come down and visit us.
Okay, great. Yeah, of course, our office in Barcelona is open to everyone too. So Jose, if you want to organize something, or if you are interested in learning more, just drop us an email after the webinar and we will try to organize something. This has been everything today. We want to give a special thanks to LiMETOOLS, Neil and John. Thank you so much for your presentation and from bringing us the gamification concept to help us understand much more in detail what you have been developing and for these projects and others, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Laura, for your time, helping us understand a little bit more these tech trends. And to the rest of you, thank you for being today with us. We will share the video and presentations after the webinar, well, in a couple of hours or maybe tomorrow morning. And we will share it with you also when will be our next sessions. Thank you very much for joining us. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.